Hallo, liebe Leute von Habes von Lesbos, von Nordens von Osten bis Westen. Hier bin ich wieder, der liebe guter LeKris. Herzlich willkommen nochmal zum Montag, zum Anfang der Woche. Und wir spielen nochmal ein ganz kleines bisschen das Stanley Parallel Ultra Deluxe. Denn es hat sich ja ein bisschen was geändert seit dem letzten Mal, als wir das gespielt haben. Und es gab ein paar Änderungen. Deswegen werden wir jetzt quasi ich sag mal, die üblichen Wege durchgehen, die man vom Original so kennt. Denn offensichtlich gibt es ja leichte Änderungen. Und genau die wollen wir uns mal angucken, beziehungsweise gucken, ob uns die auffallen und gucken, ob es eventuell noch andere Sachen gibt. Denn es gibt ja noch Collectibles, die keine Auswirkungen aufs Spiel haben und eigentlich auch total unnötig sind. Aber sie gibt es halt. Und es wurde sogar gezeigt, wo die sind, beziehungsweise wurde das geschrieben, wo man sie finden kann. Und vielleicht kriegen wir es ja hin, die Collectibles einfach mal zu sammeln. Man weiß das ja nicht so. Ich will mal gucken, ob ich noch den Screenshot finde, den ich letztes Mal gemacht habe. Denn dort stand ja überall geschrieben, wo sich die Collectibles befinden. Genau, a large room, lots of boxes, stairs, something with stairs, somewhere both red and blue, nearby a fireplace. Den Fireplace finde ich interessant. Ich weiß, das Spiel hat mir gesagt, ich kann jetzt die Uhrzeit umstellen, wie ich möchte, aber ich stelle sie jetzt trotzdem auf die originale Uhrzeit. Einfach, weil ich es kann. Meine Lieblingsuhrzeit, genau. 9:43 Uhr. Das ist es. Oder konntest du aber nicht anders, als mir wieder die korrekte Zeit zu geben. Das Spiel hat einfach mitgekriegt. Ich weiß ja schließlich, wie gerne du die korrekte Uhrzeit einstellst. Ja, natürlich. Okay, jetzt interessiert es mich, wie präzise 9:43 ist. Benutzen wir einen weiteren Regler, um es herauszufinden. LOL? Wie präzise ist 9:43? Ja, das ist schon sehr präzise. Weißt du, du solltest wissen, dass ich ungeachtet der Präzision der Uhrzeit großen Spaß am Anpassen dieser Einstellung habe. Ich habe das Gefühl, mehr über dich zu erfahren darüber, wie du Einstellungen vornimmst. Es ist gut, Daten zu sammeln. Ich wünschte, wir hätten mehr Regler, aber wir sind alle Regler durchgegangen, die ich habe. Vielleicht kann ich ein paar neue Slider erfinden, um neue Daten über dich zu sammeln. Sollte nicht zu schwer sein. Ja, lass mich ein paar neue auftreiben. Sollte fertig sein, wenn du das nächste Mal das Spiel startest. Haha, lol. Ja, wir haben ein neues Intro. Das haben wir uns erspielt und erarbeitet. Aber wir wollen natürlich ins Spiel hineingehen.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
So. Also das ist zum Beispiel eine Sache, Einstellung, die ich nicht so gut finde, denn irgendwie fliegt jedes Mal die Steuerung raus und ich weiß nicht wieso. Wir haben hier die ganzen schönen Ballons.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
So. Meeting today, genau. Der Eimer ist wieder da!
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Ganz hervorragend, dann nehmen wir den noch mit. Den haben wir ja eigentlich weggebracht.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Na, dann müssen wir den normalen Weg doch nochmal gehen. Ach, herrje. Hier ist nochmal die Liste mit dem Mission Status, wie man die Collectibles findet. Ah, ich gehe mal nach unten. Ja, komm, vielleicht gibt es ein anderes Ende, wenn wir den Eimer dabei haben. Das kann ja durchaus sein. Ich traue dem Spiel ja mittlerweile alles Mögliche zu.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket.
Wow.
Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always.
Wie
The
gut.
bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk.
Ach, ja, stimmt.
Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Haben wir einfach gar nicht mitgekriegt, dass das 2845 bedeutet, also heißt.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Ja,
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
genau, der Eimer guidet mich. Das ist die logischste Erklärung für alles. Müssen wir jetzt nochmal das gute und das schlechte Ende machen? Das wäre natürlich bitter.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
Wäre nicht der Eimer.
Comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Holt euch auch so einen Eimer. Das ist ein ganz hervorragender Gegenstand. Der hilft euch in jeder
Stanley and the bucket
Notsituation.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Alles neu aufgenommen, nur um nochmal den Eimer mit reinzubringen. Wie geil ist das bitte schön? Was für ein riesengroßer Aufwand, aber es ist großartig.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly
Der Eimer
burst
brach in
into
Tränen
tears
aus.
as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Genau, alles wird gut. Lieber Eimer. Oh, das
Was
ist
the
ja schön.
bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well?
Gute
Had the
Frage.
bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do?
Eine hervorragende Frage.
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never!
Never.
Squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Ja, schon traurig, wenn man außer einem Eimer keinen anderen Freund hat, weil der Rest verschwunden ist.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good.
Ja.
Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way. The bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Oh, die Sache mit dem Eimer, es eskaliert ein bisschen von der Story her, aber ich finde es gut.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse.
Hervorragend.
True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd live together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening?
Nein.
Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
Nein.
Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket.
Nein.
Needed the soothing warmth of the bucket. Will go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms.
Was passiert
Not
denn
while
hier?
this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket.
Wenigstens
To
das.
be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad. Stanley
Wenn man einen
thought,
Eimer hat, ist das
as long
okay.
as I have my bucket with me, right?
Genau.
I'll be okay, won't I?
Genau.
Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Was zum Geier war das denn? Wie der Eimer einfach alles verändert.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to
Ich
go
muss
to the
diesen
meeting.
Eimer mitnehmen.
The confusion
Überall
and
hin.
chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Ah, da muss der ein Ende auch nochmal
The
machen.
bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Ich habe doch nicht mal irgendein anderes Ende gespielt. Also nicht mal ein anderes wirkliches großes Ende. Ich habe einfach nur... Ey. Okay, dann können wir mit dem Eimer das Bad Ending auch spielen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Ach ja, zum Boss's Office, Entschuldigung, mein Fehler.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Yep.
Was the bucket guiding
Yep.
him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Oha. Oha. Ich bin schon die ganze Zeit überlegen, ob hier nicht eine Zwischenetage fehlt. Hat man hier nicht normalerweise auch die Möglichkeit, links oder rechts abzugehen?
Stanley
Fehlt
and the
doch,
bucket
oder?
walked straight ahead through the large door
Also
with red
mit Ausnahme des
mind
Escape-Dings.
control facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Boah, ich hätte echt nicht gedacht, also das ist ja die ganzen Dialoge, nein, die ganzen Monologe, also ich weiß gar nicht, wie man das nennt, das ganze Storytelling, dass das ja neu eingesprochen wurde, fand ich ja schon ganz großartig, nur weil eben Eimer mit dabei ist. Aber dass das Ende nochmal, also wow, was so eine kleine Sache alles in diesem Spiel ändert. Ich bin so geflasht.
Had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently.
Das
reassuring it
vervielfacht
that everything
ja
was fine.
nochmal die Möglichkeiten von verschiedenen Enden in diesem Spiel. Das ist ja
Was the
unglaublich.
bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Vor allem,
No! He screamed into the bucket. He
also ich
couldn't
kenne ja
accept
die Originalenden, die ich ja alle gespielt habe, die es gibt. Also bis auf das mit dem Baby, das habe ich mir angeguckt, weil das dauert einfach viel zu lange. Aber, ey, und wenn jetzt mit dem Eimer nochmal es für jedes einzelne Ende nochmal ein anderes Ende gibt. Uff, ganz großes Uff.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls.
Ach so, der Eimer ist dazwischen gesprungen, natürlich.
Had this been the bucket's plan all along?
Ja.
To take over the machine and claim the power for itself?
Das wird sein.
How could the bucket have betrayed him like this?
Genau, wie kann der Eimer ihn
Stanley
nur so
was prepared
verraten?
to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
Ne?
Birds. Silly birds. The control button.
Silly Birds! Was ist denn jetzt los? More Silly Birds. Flamingos!
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind control was only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hand, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley
was happy. Ja, für den Rest seines Lebens schaute er sich alberne Vögel an. Was haben die denn mit diesem Spiel gemacht? Das ist ja unfassbar. Ich nehme den Eimer mit. Ich werde natürlich die Standardenden eigentlich nicht nochmal spielen, weil die kennt man ja, beziehungsweise also wer The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe spielt, hat meistens schon The Stanley Parable gekauft, in der Regel. Und weiß halt, wie die anderen Enden funktionieren. Beziehungsweise wie man sie triggert. Aber das, was hier passiert ist, das ist ja unfassbar. Wie machen wir das Escape-Ending?
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Das andere Ending mit der Tür hier hatten wir ja schon, wo der Eimer dann weggegeben wird.
Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Ja, der Eimer scheint also doch durchaus eine größere Rolle zu spielen, als ich ihm erst zugestehen wollte. Schön, dass es den jetzt gibt. Ich finde ihn gut. Ich mag den Eimer. Aber ich finde es trotzdem komisch, dass mir irgendwie eine Sache verwehrt bleibt. Das ist irgendwie ein bisschen seltsam. Ich hätte schwören können, dass es hier noch eine zweite Möglichkeit gibt.
Mind control facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Oha. Ja, wir
The door
würden...
behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Nee.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Ja, das wissen wir. Ja, dieses Ende ist mir durchaus bekannt.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal
Das haben sie auch neu gemacht.
In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Ha!
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Auch das ist anders. Wie geil. Der Eimer heißt sie willkommen zur großen Ausstellung. Sie stehen am Abgrund des Wissens. Ähnlich wie ein Eimer ist auch der menschliche Verstand oft leer. Eine höhlenartige Leere. Aber durch die Absorption des Ausstellungsstückes vor ihnen wird der Geist voll, bereichert und fundiert. Die Kenntnisse über den Eimer und seine Geschichte sind das einzig wahre Wissen, das wir wirklich haben. Werden Sie das, was Sie hier lernen, mit in die Welt hinausnehmen? Werden Sie aufgeschlossen, akzeptieren, was an den Informationen dieser Ausstellung herausfordernd sein mag? Werden Sie das Leben von sich selbst und Ihren Liebsten als Folge dieser Ausstellung verändern? Oder werden Sie die Augen verschließen und weiterleben wie bisher in Unwissenheit und Dunkelheit? Okay. Der Rest müsste ja eigentlich ganz normal wie das Game sein. Was ist denn
Can you
das?
see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Okay. Offensichtlich haben wir die Bedeutung des Eimers wesentlich unterschätzt. Wesentlich. Was für eine hervorragende Ausstellung zum Thema Eimer. Ein Bild voller Eimer. 25 Eimer, das sind doch keine 25 Eimer, das sind mehr. Eine Fotografie von 25 Eimern, die größte Anzahl an Eimern, die jemals von einer Kamera erfasst wurde. Der Fotograf erlitt mehrere Wochen lang einen katatonischen Schock aufgrund der Euphorie, die er beim Anblick so vieler Eimer auf einmal empfand. Ein Eimer mit 2 Henkeln. No! Dieser Eimer ist mit 2 Henkeln abgebildet. Eine solche Konstruktion wurde in der Realität nie hergestellt, da sie als zu gefährlich und waghalsig experimentell eingestuft wurde. Jedes Jahr werden Dutzende hingerichtet, nur weil sie es versucht haben. Oha. Es scheint sehr gefährlich zu sein, einen Eimer mit 2 Henkeln zu haben. Was ist das? Ein Inferno-Eimer. Eine Nachbildung des Inferno-Eimers, der im Mittelalter eine so große Anziehungskraft ausübte, dass Dutzende von Nationen gegeneinander Krieg führten, um die Kontrolle über ihn zu erlangen. Milliarden von Menschen starben und trotz allem bleibt die einfache Tatsache bestehen. Niemand kann einen Eimer kontrollieren. Nobody is able to control a bucket. The Stress Bucket, an Analogy. Ja, der Stresseimer, ohne Kommentar. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of reassurance. Vulnerability, size and strength of the bucket. Coping strategies, holes. Rest and relaxation, doing something you enjoy. Rest and relaxation, stress level of water in the bucket. Alles klar, der Stresseimer. Mhm. Die Musik. Höhlenmalerei. Wir wissen zwar, dass es Eimer schon vor der Existenz des Menschen gab, aber wir wissen nicht, wie lange zuvor. Diese Höhlenzeichnung zeigt, wie der frühe Mensch den praktischen Nutzen des Eimers entdeckte. Zu diesem Zeitpunkt gab es den Eimer wahrscheinlich schon seit mehreren Jahrtausenden. Auf diesen Zeichnungen ist zu sehen, wie der Eimer die Benutzung seiner selbst zulässt, nachdem er die Menschheit für würdig befunden hat, seine Schätze zu nutzen. Ich wusste es gab Eimer schon bevor es Menschen gab. Und dann haben die Menschen den Eimer entdeckt und der Eimer hielt die Menschen für würdig, ihn zu benutzen. Natürlich, genau so ist es gewesen. So und nicht anders.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
So, das ist es nämlich. Die Menschheit sollte vor dem Eimer niederknien. Vor der Großartigkeit des Eimers. Der hängende Eimer. Dieses Stück symbolisiert die notwendige Beziehung zwischen Eimer und Menschheit. Wie klar unser Verständnis des Eimers auch sein mag, es gibt noch mehr, das stets außerhalb unserer Reichweite liegt. Dieser Abstand ist unweigerlich zu unserem eigenen Besten. Ah, ja. Kann ich hier runterfallen? Offensichtlich. Das müssen wir mal ausprobieren. Okay, also der Abstand zwischen uns und dem Eimer, der ist bewusst gewählt, denn alles andere wäre zu gefährlich. Okay, verstehe. War das alles zum Thema Eimer oder haben wir noch was? Ne, wir haben, glaube ich, alles gesehen, ne? Hier fing unsere Rundreise an. Da ging die Treppe hoch. Hier geht es nicht weiter, das ist abgesperrt. Und dort auch. Ich befürchte tatsächlich, aber wir hätten natürlich nach links und nach rechts hochgehen können. Haben wir aber beides gemacht, weil es ja dann hinterher nicht weitergeht. Okay, ich befürchte, unsere einzige Lösung in diesem Sinne hier ist es tatsächlich zu versuchen, den Eimer zu erreichen. Was bedeutet, wir werden versuchen, den Abstand zwischen uns und dem Eimer zu verringern. Natürlich. Was auch sonst. Wir können bis zum Eimer vorgehen. Und ihn mitnehmen. Ha! Wie lustig.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine.
Was?
Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Bitte was? Ist Stanley jetzt tot und wir sind jetzt der Eimer? Das wäre mega absurd. Nee, wir sind Stanley. Alles cool. Und der Eimer ist wieder da. Hervorragend. Also ich habe erwartet, dass es ein bisschen anders wird, aber nicht so anders. Also dass sie jetzt wirklich bis jetzt nochmal für die beiden normalen Enden andere Enden haben und jetzt für das Escape-Ending nochmal ein anderes Ende. Ja, gut, dann gehen wir jetzt nach unten. Ha! Ich wusste es.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands?
Mini-stands. Stanley Figs? Stanley Guren.
Stanlerines. Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine.
Stanlerine. Cool, 3 von 6, 50%. Stark.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychological presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
In der Tat.
Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him. Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket. Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket. Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
Nein!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was
Hier sind
only
überall
way to truly
Buckets.
restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from.
Noch mehr Buckets.
The real bucket was inside of him already.
Was?
It was incredibly painful.
So viele Buckets.
Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Jeder von uns hat ein Bucket in sich. Jeder von
This is the
uns.
story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Einfach so.
Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket.
Ach so, ja klar.
Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only
Wenn nur seinen Eimer gehabt hätte.
Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity in everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Die backflipped all the way to work, Alter.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Irgendjemand verfolgt mich?
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
Hä?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Bin ich ja kurz überlegen, wenn wir links rumgehen, welche Option haben wir jetzt noch? Gar nicht mehr so viele, ne? Ich glaube, wir haben alles durch. Der Rest passiert, glaube ich, nur auf der anderen Seite. Hatten wir nicht nach dem Besprechungsraum noch eine Option? Oder ist die uns auch genommen worden? Wir gehen mal rechts rum.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Ah, die Lounge.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Und hier geht's von draußen dann weiter, genau.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Ah, hier sind die
And so the
Alternativen.
two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
So, jetzt sind wir auf dem richtig falschen Weg. Das Ding habe ich die ganze Zeit gesucht. Ich dachte, das wäre... das kommt auf, wenn man zu lange nicht mehr gespielt
Good
hat.
Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Was ist das denn? We care about you, Stanley?
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content.
Yeah.
We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the adventure line
Yeah.
and the broom closet.
Yeah.
Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite
Yeah.
jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with
Ach,
it.
Quatsch.
Don't you want another story involving the adventure line? We could make the adventure line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Der Broom Closet. Das Baby, oh Gott. Aber wieder hochfahren kann ich nicht, okay. Ja, cool, eine neue Adventure-Line, das finde ich geil.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Ah. Da 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 da. Hervorragend.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Die waren super.
Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
It's
Was?
as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Jetzt erzähl mir nicht, ich muss den Eimer abgeben, damit ich das ja weitermachen kann. Das läuft nicht. Ich werde diesen Eimer behalten. Das ist steht außer Frage. Was ist
Don't
das
you get
denn?
it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket.
Keine
That's why I'm
Chance.
very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
Ooh.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
Der
Can you guess what
Eimerzerstörer
the
ist
Bucket
ein
Destroyer does?
Ist ein
Surely you
Charakter?
don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley.
Nee.
Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters?
Genau.
Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley.
Keine
The
Chance.
fans, what they want.
Gegen die Linie. Gegen die Linie. Was zum Henker.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you, all of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend.
Tschüss.
For the moment in time that you were here, you were
Nein.
magnificent.
Ja, das tut mir leid. Ich kann den Eimer nicht zerstören lassen. Es tut mir leid. Es
All
geht
of his
nicht.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Where are we going today? The Bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Ich bin gerade überlegen, ob das hier trotzdem noch geht.
The bucket to his cheek. Could his co-workers really all be gone?
Trotz Eimer geht das immer noch?
Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear.
We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self.
The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger.
Oha.
Of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed.
Oha.
The bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
Offensichtlich.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket.
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow.
No,
Said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults.
I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of...
No!
Stanley screamed even louder this time.
This is stupid!
Ja.
You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like...
Okay.
My God, Stanley, you did it. You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, you would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come,
Was
let's
ist denn hier
restart the game,
los?
and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
Stanley hat den Eimer getötet.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself, and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude... A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and prestige. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Auf jeden Fall.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room?
Auf jeden
Yes, Stanley
Fall.
thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Ich weiß gar nicht, wie lange man hier bleiben muss, bis sich das ändert. Ich glaube, hier gibt es sogar noch Chill-Out-Musik oder so.
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stanley reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right, then walking to the lounge, then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired.
Was für eine hervorragende Geschichte, was für ein tolles Abenteuer der Eimer und Stanley doch erlebt haben. Der Wahnsinn.
Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home. Here in the employee lounge. Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home.
Wahrscheinlich. Wahrscheinlich.
Stanley decided to just give the bucket absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the lounge. Clearly,
Okay.
the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special
Ach so. Ja gut, dann sollten wir vielleicht noch ein bisschen Zeit hier verbringen. Okay, der Erzähler sagt offensichtlich nichts mehr. Naja, schade eigentlich. Okay, warte mal. Krass.
But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
Nee. Ach ja, wie schön.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else.
Okay.
Cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Der Eimer hat gesagt, ich soll zum Lastenaufzug gehen, also mache ich das auch.
Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question.
Da
how fast
ist
this
das
bucket was
Achievement.
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the
Wie
bucket
komme ich
had
denn
spoken to
dahin?
him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Okay, es muss noch alternative Wege geben, tatsächlich. Aber ich bin ja noch nicht runtergefallen, also von daher ist das alles
In
noch gut.
here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Ja, es ist ja kein dunkles Zimmer, es ist einfach nur ein Zimmer.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
Echt?
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket.
And his
Once
bucket.
upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Oh, The Beige Pages. Ist eine ganz neue Wohnung. Sunset. Da ist der Eimer. Hallo Stanley, ich bin es, dein Eimer. Drücke I, um mich zur Arbeit mitzunehmen. Ich weiß ganz genau, wo das enden wird.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Ja gut, das ist ja kein Problem. Drücke V, um mich zurück nach Hause mitzunehmen. Ja, lol.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Es gibt doch objektophile Menschen. Ich verstehe das gar nicht. Drücke B, um zurück zur Arbeit zu gehen. Ja, easy.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location.
Korrekt. Ja.
It doesn't do anything else.
Richtig. Hör nicht auf den lauten Mann. Drücke Y, damit wir wieder nach Hause gehen.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
Ja, es ist doch schön, wenn man jemanden hat, der mit einem redet. Wie zum Beispiel der Eimer. Drücke R, um alle in deinem Leben außer mir zu ignorieren. Alter, was ist denn hier los?
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Du hältst mich für real, oder Stanley? Drücke Q, um wieder nach Hause zu gehen.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid.
Ja, wahrscheinlich.
Better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Drücke N, um denselben Tag mit mir wieder und wieder und wieder zu erleben. Natürlich, Stanley.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket.
Ja.
Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Drücke K, um nach Hause und zur Arbeit und nach Hause und zur Arbeit und nach Hause zu gehen.
I'm having feelings for the bucket.
Was?
No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it
Bist du
asks.
neidisch?
What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could
Schöne,
tell me what to
sehr
do
schöne
in this troublesome
Kerzen.
situation.
Okay, jetzt wird's richtig absurd. Schöne romantische Kerzen und im Bett liegt ein Eimer. Oh nein, wie geil ist das denn?
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Wow. Er hat immer das Gefühl, gesagt zu bekommen, was er zu tun hat. Ja, natürlich. Ja, klar. Das ist ja auch... Ja. Hat er immer. Und er begrüßte Q in dem Kanal. Ja, ja. Versuch's ruhig. Hast du das Ding mal gespielt? Also das Original ist ja hervorragend. Und die Ultra Deluxe Variante ist, soweit ich das beurteilen kann, noch viel hervorragender. Es ist so viel neuer, absurder Kram drin. Also es ist unglaublich, wie viel Quatsch da noch dazu gekommen ist. Ja gut, aber wenn du alle Standardenden kennst, dann ist das hier ganz hervorragend. Also ich habe es mir tatsächlich nochmal gekauft. Ich habe das Stanley Parable in der Steam-Bibliothek drin. Und ich glaube, wenn man das Original hat, kriegt man sogar eine Preissenkung. Und ich musste es einfach normal spielen. Ich habe das Stanley Parable, glaube ich, 12, 13 Stunden gespielt. Also richtig, richtig lang.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned
Einfach,
out to be correct?
weil
Was
ich
this
versucht
better
habe,
than
so
the
viele
meeting
Enden wie
room?
möglich
Well,
zu spielen. Dann habe ich nochmal im
never
Stream
mind.
gespielt,
The bucket was
in
wrong.
eins durch und da habe ich nochmal alle Enden gespielt, die ich kannte. Und ja, und das, was hier nochmal oben drauf gesetzt wurde, wo sie gesagt haben, ja, wir machen noch was dazu und ja, bla, die haben alles nochmal neu aufgenommen. Das ist jetzt alles in der Unity-Engine, nicht mehr in der Half-Life-Engine. Und es ist so großartig. Es ist so viel Quatsch dazu
Said
gekommen.
the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else.
Oh, ich kann
the
hier
cargo
hoch.
lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Ah, und ich habe mich schon gefragt, wie ich an das Achievement komme. Ich kaufe sehr viele Indies, auch ein Grund, warum ich ca. 52 Spiele in Steam habe. Kenne ich, kommt mir sehr bekannt vor, wir teilen das gleiche Leid. Ich gehe sogar so weit, dass ich auch Early Access Games kaufe, weil man dem auch mal eine Chance geben sollte. Ich habe sogar eine Zeit lang einen Artikel darüber geschrieben, momentan fehlt mir ein bisschen die Zeit dazu, aber ich würde es eigentlich gerne wieder tun.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And
Aber
I'm
ja,
torn
Indies sind
between
immer eine gute Sache.
Stanlerines and Figlers. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Oh ja, bestimmt gibt es da bald eine Antwort für. So, theoretisch kann ich jetzt hier runterfallen und sterben. Das ist natürlich nicht gewollt. Wenn das passiert, habe ich bestimmt hinterher einen Rahmen um das Ding rum. Und dann kann ich nicht mehr... Ach nee, ich kann hier lang. Oh, wie super, da muss ich ja gar nicht sterben. Super. Das heißt, es gibt nochmal ein alternatives Ende? LOL! Kassetten? Narrator-Dialog? Nein! Alles auf Kassetten. 80 Minuten? Eine D80? Eine 90er kenne ich, eine 60er kenne ich, aber eine 80er? Das ist ja mega ungewöhnlich. Aber wie geil, die sehen halt teilweise wirklich so aus wie Kassetten, die ich früher auch gehabt habe. So aus den 70ern und so. Bis anstatt Tape schon der BASF, aber egal. Das ist ja geil. Was ist das denn? Ein Tonbandgerät. Narrator Sound System.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense.
Jetzt sollen wir mal eine Rangliste anfangen. Best of Indie. Oh ja, das wird aber sehr schwierig, glaube ich.
The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down.
Von Evidence 252.
Make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure?
Eine gute Frage.
I can monetize it.
Das will ja keiner.
Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my
Ja, wirklich, es gibt aber
golden
Titel,
ticket.
wo man den Irrsinn nicht und Spaß nicht wegreden kann. Ja, Baba is You, ganz groß. Ganz groß.
Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get
Aber da sehe ich Stanley Parable auch sehr weit vorne.
Who's there?
Gamborata einfach! Ah! Okay. Das war seltsam.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go
Ich
to the
fand es
meeting.
übrigens
Perhaps he had
super,
something
super
to say.
lame, muss ich sagen. Ich habe mir tatsächlich, also normalerweise bin ich ja gar kein großer Fan von Florentin Will. Normalerweise. Aber ich fand es halt cool, dass er angefangen hat, Babas You zu spielen. Dachte mir so, hey, ich möchte vor ihm fertig sein, bla, weil ich das ja schon im Anstoß hatte und das noch fertig machen wollte. Und ich habe alle Level, die ich gefunden habe bei Babas You durchgespielt. Wirklich alle, die ich gefunden habe. Und Florentin einfach die Hälfte vergessen. Das fand ich mega schade. Er hat das einfach nur so durchgespielt. Okay, jetzt. Ach, das ist jetzt Ende. Okay, tschüss. Fand ich mega
The
schade.
bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
Das ist eine Kurve mehr, ne? Okay, nicht nur das. Ach, das ist der andere Gang. Ah, so. Schade, ich dachte, 453 wäre jetzt, oder 452 wäre. Nee. Cool, dann haben wir das auch mal gesehen. Das ist ja so random, wenn das mal auftaucht.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chin. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Okay.
Said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room.
Das
Go
Achievement haben
somewhere
wir
else.
jetzt.
The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
So, jetzt müssen wir nochmal nach oben
Now ride
und
the lift all the way to the
beim
top.
Telefon das
There's
Kabel
something up
ziehen.
there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But
Ja.
Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was
Das ist
firmly
sowieso
convinced
so.
that the
Man
bucket
sollte
has
grundsätzlich
spoken
nicht
to
über
him, and
offensichtliche
he
Tatsachen
undoubtedly did
nachdenken. Das
whatever
ergibt ja
the
gar keinen
bucket
Sinn.
asked.
Das ist ja totaler Quatsch. Offensichtliche Tatsachen. Fakten sind halt schon da, die sind
In
offensichtlich.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders?
Yep.
Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Ja, natürlich.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took this seriously. Where did I
Ja.
mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker?
Ja, vielleicht.
Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is.
Was?
It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
Cool, Lehrvideo über Comedy. Ich habe ja richtig Bock drauf.
What is comedic timing?
Haha, cool.
What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds?
Natürlich.
Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a
Wahrscheinlich.
room of no more than 76 degrees
Auch?
Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward
Ja,
at a 50-degree
bestimmt.
angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing.
Ja,
To
bestimmt.
begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name.
Was?
Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then
Was?
spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor.
Was?
Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds
Yo.
and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the
What?
joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by
Oh,
declaring
man.
in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny."
I'm Danny with the funny,
I'm
jawohl.
Danny with the funny now.
Wie super. Wie super. I'm Danny with the
This
funny.
saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy.
Ah, schön.
Finally, it's time to hand out surveys.
Was?
Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian.
Natürlich.
An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter.
Oh
in no
mein
time.
Gott. Oh
Just
mein
remember to
Gott.
let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, with each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence, and to very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles.
Natürlich.
All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Wo kam denn jetzt der Break-up her?
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So, with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
Ah ja. Meine halt. Mini-Metro habe ich auch sehr gerne gespielt, tatsächlich. Shadow Tactics habe ich noch nicht gespielt, soll unfassbar gut sein von der Story her. This War of Mine, ja. Dorfromantik habe ich noch nicht angespielt, finde ich aber auch sehr gut. Please Don't Touch Anything ist sehr, sehr geil. FTL ist gut. Bastion habe ich durch. Sind sogar 350 Spiele, yo. Und was auf jeden Fall nicht fehlen sollte, ist There's No Game. Auch ganz hervorragendes Spiel. Also ganz, ganz hervorragend. Und was ich auch ganz gut finde, ist, ich weiß gar nicht, ob das noch als Indie zählt, aber Satisfactory ist hervorragend. Und in dem Zuge, was ich noch nicht gespielt habe, aber im Besitz habe, ist Gott, dieses Micromanagement-Spiel im Cyberpunk-Look, was jeder kennt eigentlich. Auch ganz hervorragendes Ding. Und auch sehr geil übrigens, wie heißt denn das? Da habe ich auch eine Rezension zugeschrieben. Das Spiel ist komplett in ASCII und ist so ein rundenbasiertes Self-Runner-Ding. Voll geil. Wie hieß denn? Ich muss nochmal nachgucken, das ist sehr, sehr geil.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy.
Nee,
That's what
Hack
you'll call
heißt
me.
das nicht.
Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The
Doch?
bucket spoke to
Nein.
Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Was ist das denn? Karteneinführgerät-Dings hier? Seit wann gibt's denn sowas? Wie heißt denn das? Die Grafik ist komplett in ASCII und es ist halt so ein Self-Runner-Ding, aber es ist trotzdem noch mit RPG-Elementen versetzt und war mal im Early Access. Kann sein, dass es immer noch im Early Access ist. Ist ein sehr schönes Spiel. Und der andere Kram ist, oh Gott, wie heißt denn das? Muss ich nochmal nachgucken, aber es gibt gute Sachen, sehr gute Sachen. So, ich gehe jetzt den ganzen Weg wieder zurück. Ist das korrekt? Soll es so? Hat er ja gesagt. Nee, der Tag meine ich aber nicht. Wirklich nicht. Es
Here
gibt
we
ein...
go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
So. Was?
Phone already? No, what's going on? There were supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point. A dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was.
Nee, wird er auch nicht. So schlägt er auch nicht
I
ein.
must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing.
Wow, wie Depri.
Well, I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional.
Och nö.
Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Ich muss eigentlich nach links gehen. Und da geht's nicht mehr zum Telefon. Das ist ja bescheuert. Ist die Tür zu? Oh nein, die Tür ist zu.
We're back at the phone already. No.
Okay, das bringt also nichts. Dyson Sphere Program ist ganz cool. Loop Hero, auch sehr geiles Spiel. Na gut, Portal ist ja klar, das zählt für mich aber nicht mehr als Indie. Ich hab's gleich. Moment. Ich habe ja die Liste hier offen. Oh, Nevermind ist auch sehr, sehr geil. Anti-Chamber ganz groß übrigens, kann ich sehr empfehlen. Ja, Loop Hero ist super, macht mir auch mega viel Spaß tatsächlich. Orient the Blind Forest habe ich gespielt, ist auch sehr geil. Seren Fate ist sehr, sehr gut gemacht tatsächlich, macht auch viel Spaß. Da muss man sehr viel Zeit reinstecken. Valheim ist sehr gut, dauert lange. Crossing Souls, geile Story. Hell yeah, habe ich sehr gefeiert, ist auch schon älter. The Witness auch sehr gut, aber habe ich noch nicht durch. Ja, Anti-Chamber war auch wirklich wild, das stimmt. Aber war ein geiles Spiel, war ein richtig geiles Spiel. Ich höre den Soundtrack heute noch, weil ich den mega geil finde. Eins meiner Lieblings-Ambient-Alben of all time derzeit. Undertale, ganz, ganz groß. Ganz, ganz groß. Kann ich nur empfehlen. Sollte man unbedingt gespielt haben. The Shattering war ganz gut. Odd Realm habe ich nicht lang genug gespielt. Evoland macht Spaß. Breath Edge finde ich mega lustig. Factorio brauche ich, glaube ich, nichts zu sagen. Prodeus ist mega blutig und mega cool. Auch vom Design her, so von der Grafik. Alter, wo ist denn das? Other Side fand ich sehr cool, aber ist mega schwer. Risk of Rain finde ich auch sehr schwer, aber ist ein schönes Spiel. Knights of Pen and Paper ist auch mega geil, habe ich auf dem Smartphone im Anstich. Wild True Learn, wenn man so ein bisschen so auf Logik und Programmieren steht, ist gut. Stone Story RPG, das ist das, was ich meinte mit dem ASCII-Gedönse. Stone Story RPG ist ein Ding, das sollte man sich unbedingt mal gegeben haben. Das ist ein sehr schönes Spiel. So, einmal gehe ich hier noch rein und dann gehen wir nach links.
We're back at the phone already. No. Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other jokers.
Tut mir leid.
I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Okay, was passiert? Oh. Ach, das Ende.
So much it's like you. It's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame. shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are.
Lustig, Stanley steht da ohne Eimer.
Still not. Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame. Pale. What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. Getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy.
Bestimmt.
More instructional videos. Let's see.
Und ich dachte, jetzt gibt es ein neues Instructional-Video. Bisschen enttäuschend.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Was?
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but
Richtig.
Stanley is a very lucky fellow.
Natürlich.
Very lucky indeed.
Natürlich.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Ja, Stone Story ist ein schönes Spiel. Macht echt viel Spaß, finde ich. Und da müsste mittlerweile auch genug Content drin sein. Zu Anfang, als ich es gespielt habe, war noch nicht so viel Content da drin, aber mittlerweile haben die ja nachgerüstet, weil ich habe seit dem sehr frühen Early Access gespielt, als es gerade rausgekommen ist, aber auch da war es schon hervorragend, also von daher schönes Spiel.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
So, jetzt kommt die blaue und die rote Tür.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this.
Wo steht das?
Stanley, how could
Ach, da!
Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point.
Wahrscheinlich.
If that's true, well, my goodness. I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
Das weiß ich.
Step in here for a moment.
Was? Was ist das denn?
Then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simply that. This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what it is or is not.
Da komm, alles falsch beantworten.
Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
Nope.
Correct.
Was?
It's a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
LOL.
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
Nein. Ah?
It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket. Not an actual bucket.
Was?
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
Nein.
This is a bucket.
Das ist tatsächlich ein Eimer, der sieht ja genauso aus wie alle beiden.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Ja.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely
Wie sie einfach einen Traktor aufs Laufband gepackt haben.
Let's move on to the next one. Is this a bucket?
Nein. Also ja.
Correct.
Was?
A bucket.
Was ist denn hier los?
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Nein.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Das ist beides. Sowohl ein Eimer als auch keiner. Schrödingers Eimer,
Wait,
okay.
hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Ja, keine Ahnung. Wenn kein Dings da ist, dann gibt's auch keinen Eimer. Also. Bestimmt ist es ein Eimer.
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket
Yep.
is nothing?
Definitiv.
Straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Nichts ist ein Eimer. Ja. Das ist eine philosophische Frage.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with.
Ja, das ist auch die Frage, die die Welt bewegt.
I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets.
Nein!
Okay, here we go.
Alle Eimer sind aus dem Spiel entfernt?
Why did everything disappear? Wait,
Ach so, ja klar. Alles ist ein Eimer,
every
natürlich.
single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could, except me? I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here.
Ja.
You're not a bucket either.
Stimmt.
Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact.
Ist das
we haven't got a
abgefahren?
game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets.
Okay.
And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that.
Okay.
Who knows what that information might do to a person. All right, here we go.
Das ist ja so hervorragend. Er hatte wieder diese Stimme im Kopf, die ihm sagt, er müsste sich jetzt vom Kuh verabschieden. Ja, dann gute Nacht, aber schön, dass du da warst. Hat mich sehr gefreut. Auf ein nächstes. Bis dann mal.
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh?
Eine noch.
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent.
Ich glaube, sämtliche Möglichkeiten, die man hätte gehen können, sind wir jetzt durchgegangen mit dem Eimer.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Das heißt, wir haben sämtliche Eimer-Enden
Telling him that the
jetzt durch.
employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Glaube ich. Also eine Möglichkeit haben wir noch.
Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
Da weiß ich aber nicht, ob das überhaupt ein Eimer-Ende ist.
Bucket was wrong.
Weil jetzt müssten wir quasi wieder auf den right way of the game gehen.
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite
Aber dann
door.
ist, glaube ich, alles wieder wie vorher. Also jetzt haben wir wieder die normalen Eimer-Enden, sage ich jetzt einfach mal. Somewhere both red and blue und nearby a fireplace. Wo ist der Kamin? Bei welchem Ende ist der Kamin?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Oh, das weiß ich gar nicht mehr. Es gibt ein Ende mit einem Kamin. kriegen wir das denn noch hin? Puh. Das ändert auf jeden Fall das Büro des Chefs. Kann sein, dass das die rote oder die blaue Tür war. Okay. Wie schön, dass sich hier nichts geändert hat. Wir können jetzt auch mal hier stehen bleiben und hier ist halt ein Fireplace, aber dann würden wir das die Figur schon sehen. Also das
Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Und wenn man hier lange noch stehen bleibt, dann macht der Erzähler nämlich die Tür von allein auf. Und ich weiß nicht, wie das mit dem Bucket ist. Die Tür ist, glaube ich, zu? Ja, die ist zu.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Korrekt. Ich habe einen Eimer, alles ist gut. Ich brauche nichts weiter. Auch wenn keiner hier ist, ich habe meinen Eimer. Alles hervorragend. Wer braucht schon eine Abenteuergeschichte, eine Herausforderung, wenn er einen Eimer hat? Oh, surprise. Well, whoop-de-doo. Ja, ich glaube, da ist nichts mehr. Das sind jetzt quasi die normalen Bucket-Enden.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Halt. Jetzt drehen wir um. Jetzt, die Tür ist ja offen, eigentlich, deswegen können wir nochmal zurück. Und dann können wir in die Mind Control Facility und können uns Vogelvideos angucken. Ja, ich glaube, wenn man back on track geht, da ist dann nichts Besonderes.
But of course, Stanley and the bucket thought better of it and realized they simply had too much to live for.
Mhm.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Ja, ich denke mal, so wie es aussieht, haben wir jetzt heute alle Bucket-Endings durchgespielt, die
And
es gibt.
Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Das war das Employee 528? Ja. Dieb, was? Irgendwas mit Error. Okay, interessant. Monitore ohne Ziffern. Interessant.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Ja, traurig, aber wahr.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in,
Eine Sache
Stanley
können wir noch
decided that this
machen.
machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the
Eine
button
Sache
to
können wir
turn
noch
on
machen.
the
Ich weiß
controls.
bloß nicht, ob wir das
Stanley
alles
gasped
finden.
in horror. Had this been the bucket's
Und
plan
zwar
all
alle Tasten
to take
drücken.
over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds.
Ach ja,
Silly.
Silly
Silly
Birds.
birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind
Ah,
control
es sind
facility at all. It was a facility
endlich
for
viele.
monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions.
Schon eins der besten
Stanley
Enden
marveled
einfach.
at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable.
Ich glaube, ich muss mir noch mal den Soundtrack von dem Spiel holen. Das ist ja ganz geil.
This one was surely the best, and Stanley was happy.
Hervorragend. Ich weiß nicht, ob es mit dem Eimer auch geht.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Jetzt müssen wir nur
What could
gucken,
it
dass
mean?
wir
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
jeden
Perhaps he had
Computer
simply missed
finden.
a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ich weiß nicht, ob das geht, wenn wir den
Stanley
Eimer
cradled the
mitnehmen.
bucket in a gentle embrace, protective
Ja.
yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate.
Ich glaube, es sind 5 Stück. Awaiting Input. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ja, sind 5 Stück. Username Access. Genau, wir müssen die Awaiting Inputs müssen wir bedienen. Das führt, glaube ich, auch zu dem anderen Ende.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Das hätte ich von Anfang an mal machen sollen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Ja, das hätte ich zwischendurch machen sollen. Es ist halt nicht bei jedem Mal, sind es 2, 3, sondern dann ist immer nur einer oder immer nur 2, dann ist es random verteilt. Ach, das ist ja blöd.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Okay, dann müssen wir jetzt trotzdem noch die Enden ohne den Bucket machen.
The lights rose on an enormous
Damit wir
room
zumindest
packed with
die
television screens. What
Stanley-Figuren
horrible secret
eingesammelt
this place
bekommen.
hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Kann auch sein, dass das pro Run ist, da bin ich mir nicht ganz sicher.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the
So, jetzt hat natürlich das Problem, es könnte sein,
controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad
dass
or
hier eventuell
content.
nochmal Awaiting Input steht. Das
Walking,
wäre zwar
eating,
ganz schön
working, all of it
mies.
monitored and commanded from this very place.
Nee,
As the
nee,
cold
nee.
reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Okay, weiter zurück komme ich nicht. Ja gut, das ist okay. Das ist ja in Ordnung. Das ist ja ein schönes Ende auch. Born to data, tracking them all. 410.457.864.530 Live Birds. Ja, spannend.
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley
Natürlich
marveled at
hätte
the
er
metal
einmal das alles
genius in
gewusst,
his
ist ja
hand,
klar.
the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Okay, jetzt müssen wir gucken, dass wir eventuell in 20 Minuten noch ein paar Enden durchkriegen. Ohne Eimer. Einfach um die Figürchen einzuladen. Ich weiß... Oh. Who farted?
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Warum ruft sie auf 434 an? Sie weiß doch, dass ich in 728 bin. 428. Das verstehe ich nicht. Das erschließt sich mir nicht. 427. Oh, wie konnte ich denn zweimal die falsche Nummer sagen? Grausam. Ganz, ganz grausam. Hier, awaiting input. Input received, das ist wirklich pro Durchgang. Also das ist immer random an irgendeinem PC. Computer. Ich weiß ja nicht, ob es ein PC ist.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nee.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ach, ich hätte mit einmal noch mal runterfallen können.
Perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
Wie da auch immer noch steht, no buckets past this point.
That I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
So, hier sind die beiden Türen.
Stanley walked through the red door. You're
Ha!
getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anmarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anmarines. None
Das
of us
stimmt.
can.
Das stimmt. Oh, ich weiß gar nicht mehr, was war.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. I would We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?
Gott, ist echt was runtergefallen. Ah, dieses wunderschöne Ende.
Beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually
Ja, das ist
feel
natürlich hervorragend, ne? Das ist also das rote Türende, also das Chill, das Ambient-Ende, ja.
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
Ja.
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please,
Just
Stanley, no! Oh, thank God. You live. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Kann sein, dass ich schon langsamer geworden bin? Ja, ne?
Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
Ja, das bringt uns aber nichts.
No, perhaps not.
Ach, guck mal an, hier ist sogar ein Loch drin in der Verbindung.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game?
Nee.
You'll throw yourself from this platform over and over? Did you
Nee.
really? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
Bestimmt nicht.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well,
Ja.
this one is yours.
Ja, letztendlich geht es darum, Entscheidungen zu treffen. Oder eben keine zu treffen. Oder eben die Entscheidung zu treffen, keine zu treffen. Oder die Entscheidung zu treffen, eine zu treffen.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Hä? Ah, der Eimer ist noch da.
Stanley's bucket, the only co-worker he would ever truly need. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Da ist auch ein Ende. Muss man halt auch mal gemacht haben.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Verdammt, jetzt habe ich drüben nicht geguckt. Nanu, kein Awaiting Input. Auf keinem der Monitore? Das ist aber seltsam. Nanu?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
Ich hätte es ja gut gefunden, wenn da unten noch ein anderer Stanley liegen würde, aber...
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here.
Ach, nö.
I haven't even finished building this section of the map, because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees?
Vielleicht.
With me, you've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback.
Okay.
There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Stairs haben wir. A large room, lot of boxes haben wir. Somewhere both red and blue. Und nearby a fireplace. Ah, wo kommt... Mann, dieser Fireplace. Wo war dieser Fireplace? Wie triggert man den?
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Ah, das World Leaderboard. Lange nicht mehr gesehen. Good old Neil. Es geht Nicho Nacho Volla Hogarth. 12 Sekunden, als ob. Only the worst 3% of players choose the blue door. Stanley is online.
would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game. All about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Man muss es halt wirklich 4 Stunden spielen, ne? Wirklich, in Echtzeit, grausam.
Bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do.
Das ist halt das einzige Ende, was ich nicht gespielt habe.
I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Nee.
Aha, fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower. Perhaps for some sort of twisted, erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
Ist das nicht Firewatch? Ja, ne? Alter. Im Original ist halt noch Minecraft eingebunden. Boah. Alter. Einfach mal ein Teil von Firewatch hier reingeballert. Leute, ihr seid so wahnsinnig. Ich find's geil. Also, das ist... natürlich ist es Quatsch, ne? Gar keine Frage. Aber einfach mal Firewatch reingeballert. Uff.
Oh no. No, it can't be.
Da ist ein Schild.
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off.
What?
Thank goodness.
Uff, das war knapp.
Wandered off into that thing, that big open, just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to follow. You can
Das
just go
ist
in
bei
any...
Open World so.
Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Rocket League?
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this
Das
is
ist denn hier
game
nicht
design.
richtig?
Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
Das ist gar nicht so schwierig. Hier ist ein riesengroßes Loch.
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports
Yeah.
ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Alter. Das ist ohne Auto halt auch nur halb so witzig.
Hold on. What are you doing?
Oh, hier kann man runterfallen? Huch. Das wusste ich ja gar nicht.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
Ah, das ist jetzt wieder das alte Stanley Parable, ne? Das ganz ursprüngliche. Gott, da weiß ich schon gar nicht mehr, wo man lang gehen muss. Da habe ich ja gar keine Ahnung mehr von. Ich kannte hier mal den Weg, ja, aber... Ist auch schon so lange her, das habe ich natürlich nicht gemerkt. Vielleicht ist es sogar einfacher, als ich denke, und es reicht gerade auszugehen, aber ich glaube, das ist es nicht. Oder vielleicht doch. Wie sie einfach Firewatch und Rocket League dazwischen geballert haben.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Blub. Wie? Ah, ich wollte gerade sagen, kein Loading Screen? Was ist da los?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Wieder kein Awaiting Input? Dann ist es bestimmt oben beim Chef.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Nearby a fireplace. Ja, nearby a fireplace.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ha, tatsächlich ist das der dritte. muss ich den ganzen Weg jetzt noch... Oh.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a
Natürlich.
few moments with some calming New Age music.
Da hätte ich gerne mal den ganzen Track. Da fällt mir gerade ein, wie ist denn das, wenn ich jetzt sage, das Spiel erneut beginnt, ist dann alles weg?
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated,
Das will ich jetzt natürlich nicht riskieren, weil ich den ganzen Fortschritt schon gemacht habe. Weil irgendwann resettet man ja auch und das will ich ja nicht. Ja gut, dann rushen wir jetzt schnell zum Good Ending durch.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Wenn ich bloß wüsste,
The lights rose on an enormous room packed
wie
with
man
television
den
screens.
anderen Chef
What horrible
rumtriggert.
secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen.
Schwierig.
Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored
Ich
in
weiß,
space,
wie wir
where
das
freedom
eine
meant
Ende triggern mit dem Du bist alleine gedöns, das Alone Ending, das weiß ich.
This mind
Dann
control
das
facility was too
verwirrte
horrible
Ending,
to
wo er
believe it
verrückt
couldn't
wird,
be
das
true.
weiß ich.
Had Stanley
Das, haben wir alles,
been
das was wir alles mit dem
under
Bucket
someone's
gemacht haben. Das geht
control
auch ohne
all this
Bucket.
time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job?
Aber wie
That
kommen
his
wir denn an
emotions had been
den...
manipulated to accept it blindly?
Und vor allem, wie kommen wir an die
No.
Adventure
He
Line?
refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Können wir die Adventure Line können wir nicht.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation.
Mit dem
Controls
Bucket
labeled with
triggern.
emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery...
Ha! Es gibt noch eine Möglichkeit, wie man wieder zurückgeht. Und das triggert, glaube ich, die
and a rising
Adventure
chill of
Line.
uncertainty. Was it over?
Ich glaube, dann kriegen wir bei dem Fireplace auch
He had
die
won.
Boss-Sache.
He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers
Wir kriegen
gone?
das noch raus.
How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other
Und
mysteries did this
wir müssen
strange
sowieso die ganzen Standardenden spielen, denn wie wir heute gesehen haben, das Ende mit der dritten Tür hat ja auch verschiedene Spiele. Da war vorher, was war denn da drin? Minecraft war da drin und noch irgendwas, glaube ich. Jetzt haben wir einfach Firewatch und Rocket League. Abgefahren. Einfach abgefahren.
Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the
Was
new
war denn
path
das? Wie
before
trigger
me.
ich denn dieses andere?
This was exactly the way,
Ah,
right
dieses
now,
andere
that
Büro.
things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ich komme da noch irgendwie drauf. Aber das machen wir nicht mehr heute. Das machen wir beim nächsten Mal. Ich weiß noch nicht genau, wann ich das wieder weiterspiele. Es ist mal so ein bisschen spontan, je nachdem, wie ich Zeit und Lust habe. Eigentlich mehr, wie ich Zeit habe. Das kann auch diese Woche sein, das kann nächste Woche sein. Ich muss mal gucken, je nachdem, wie die Termine fallen. Ich bedanke mich auf jeden Fall ganz, ganz herzlich fürs Zugucken. Ich bedanke mich bei allen, die im Chat aktiv gewesen sind, bei allen, die am Lurker dabei gewesen sind. Und wenn es euch gefallen hat, würde es mich natürlich sehr freuen, wenn wir uns einmal in den nächsten Streams wiedersehen werden würden. Wie zum Beispiel am Dienstag um 18:30 Uhr, wo es aber mit dem wunderschönen RPG Illusion of Time, wo ich mich dann meinem schwierigsten Gegner stelle, den ich seit Ewigkeiten nicht besiegen konnte oder seit Kindheitstagen nicht besiegt habe. Und danach habe ich keine Ahnung, wie das Spiel weitergeht. Das wird sehr interessant. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich die Gegner schaffe, weil es wird wahrscheinlich ein ganz, ganz krasser Hard-Try. Ich wünsche euch auf jeden Fall eine wunderschöne Rest, eine wunderschöne Nacht, bleibt gesund. Und dabei bin ich zu sagen, ich bin LeKris. Das war The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Ich verabschiede mich und sage bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschaußen.